Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 228 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome back to the show. In this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about business. We're going to talk a little bit about philosophy. And in this one, we're going to talk about if you're going to do something, be the best in the world at it, choose one thing, do it well. So it ought to be a great episode. So without further ado, here we go. So before we get started, I do want to say a quick thank you to a couple of our sponsors, TriggerTech and MDT. TriggerTech really makes a fine product. We recommend them for all of our custom rifle builds. We recommend them to customers when they call in and ask about a trigger. They make a lot of different makes and models. They're probably one of the easiest, safest, and in my opinion, probably one of the best selections of triggers that you can ask for in the market today. So if you want to upgrade your rifle and you like to do it with a trigger, we really recommend you stop over and visit triggertech.com. We'd also like to thank MDT, maker of fine rifle chassis. They make a lot of different makes and models from really a wide variety of prices. You're going the whole way down from the Oryx, which we think is one of the unsung heroes of custom rifles, right up to the ACC Elite and, of course, the J. Allen. So if you really want to get the most out of your shooting, you really have to get a stock that fits you well. We see it here at the school all the time. Getting a stock or chassis that fits you properly for your build, for your facial features, for how wide your shoulders are. It really makes a difference. So if you want to upgrade your rifle and you would like to do it with a chassis, stop over to mdttac.com. That's mdttac.com today. So we've been really busy here at the shop. Just to give you some shop talk or shop news, super exciting. The Gen 4 Ace is in production. It has been a lot of work. The new machines are running. I am just astonished. Like the accuracy that Okuma is able to produce, the quality of the programming, the ability of these machines, in my mind, just makes my head hurt because you wouldn't think it's possible to do something as fast as it does, as well as accurate. So, for us, the quality is always key. And one of the reasons why we invested in Okuma's, which we'll talk about some in the business model later on some of the different companies and what they have to be careful about, but is they were the absolute best choice for us as far as what we were looking for, the LB3000 lathe with Y-axis and a sub-spindle, just an incredibly big, heavy piece of machine that is able of holding aerospace type tolerances and do it for a generation or two. When we toured a lot of facilities looking for machines, we toured several facilities that had a very similar machine to our LB, still in full production, built in the 90s. And I actually got to spend some time with the shop foreman there. My wife's cousin actually works at this machine shop, and they were like, this machine has run like this since the day it was bought. And really no maintenance and repairs. I mean, it's just an incredible machine. And we heard that story over and over again. And it's really fine Japanese manufacturing. Think of like any of the super sport. I think of Honda, for example. Like it's just their best engineering. And for me, it wasn't just about creating a good part or a great part, but it was being able to produce it for a really long period of time without having issues. So there is a lot of lathes and mills out there that you can purchase that are certainly less expensive and probably just as good as quality-wise if you take your time with the machine and you get everything dialed in properly and you get you always have to fine-tune things as you're getting the perfect part off. That's common, but what is also common, sometimes you have to chase that. As the machine warms up or the room warms up, the machine's castings can change. Heat causes things to expand, and then all of a sudden you go out of tolerance. And when you're trying to hold super tight tolerances like we're trying to hold here, and we're talking tenths, that's where these machines can sometimes just cause a lot of issues. So you have to do one of two things. You either have to buy the machine that handles these things, and in our case, our machine can actually adjust for the heating up and cooling down of the castings real time. So we don't have to let the machine warm up for half an hour before we go in and just make a good part. But then with the other machine, sometimes you have to have the better driver. So you have to have just a world-class machinist that is able to hear the machine, listen to the machine, talk to the machine, and have that ongoing conversation just to keep it sweet talked in and keeping cutting those perfect parts over and over again. And so you have to have the better driver. Those guys are getting a few and far in between. We were talking to one of our application engineers that was here with us yesterday. We were doing some training and still working on getting some things ready for full production. And those guys are disappearing. I mean, I forget sometimes. I still feel like I'm in my 20s. I'm a little beat up. I have lots of knee surgeries on my right knee. I don't run as good as I used to. But, I forget that I'm old. I'm in my 50s now, soon to be 55. And I still feel like I'm in my 20s. So when I talk about old-time machinist, I'm forgetting that I'm probably getting close to that. And the guys that I look to that I would consider old-time machinists from my point of view, they're passing away. They're dying. It's a shame because, like Joe was talking about yesterday, our application engineers, that we're going to lose this tribal knowledge. Like these guys, like I went to Montgomery County Community College down in, I believe it's in Asheville, and I went down for some certifications. The instructor of that class was okay. I mean, he was maybe a bit on the arrogant side. Obviously, he was running the whole show, and maybe just I don't want to say he's not quite a people person, but he wasn't quite a people person, right? He was just more about maybe him. But I told Joe, I said, I learned more off the guy that was the helper than the lead instructor. And the reason being was, here sat this guy with overalls. Think of like a ZZ Top gray beard. He chewed, and of course he was a big guy too, right? He was like 6'6", or maybe my memory's doing me wrong, but I remember looking at the guy thinking, well, he may be old, but I'm thinking that he could probably still whoop some serious behind. I mean, he was a big guy, right? He was awesome. He was an old school machinist. I learned more. I mean, and we sort of hit it off right out of the gate because I was talking about chambering and, using spiders. And I think that's maybe where the instructor got angry with me because the lathes were actually set up to use them. I brought all the tools to do it. And he was not happy about that. He doesn't teach it. He doesn't believe in it. He thinks it's hogwash. And he was like, wow, you show me what difference it makes when you dial that barrel in. And, that's sort of how it went. And when I did, and we got a bore scope out and I showed him, he was like, holy shit, how'd you do that? And then, of course, he brought the whole class over and then explained to the whole class how to do it. He did, of course. But to me and this older gentleman that was helping there at the class, we hit it off right out of the gate. I mean, he was just super sweet. And I mean, he was just hanging out with me going through the course. And he was sharing so many little things that he's learned over 40, 50 years of machining. And I remember thinking that I would have gone down and did the same class just to sit and talk with him. Like I wouldn't have even worried about machining or doing anything as far as the other certifications went. He was just that pleasant of a guy. And just to tell you a quick story, I hate to tell too many stories, but we went out to eat to the same. I'm a barbecue guy, right? A good thing I don't live down south. I would certainly have some serious health issues as far as like overeating. You dip hush puppies in real butter. That's always a win-win. And of course, all the barbecue sauces. You got the Carolina, where they use that vinegar-based sauce, and then you've got that really sweet sauce. But we went to the same barbecue place every day for lunch. Me and this gentleman, and the sweet tea was just incredible. And we would sit there and just talk shop. I mean, he loved his art. He loved his craft. He wanted to share it with people. And I think he appreciated somebody sitting there, and it's not just hearing him, but taking a serious interest. I mean, what he was sharing to me was priceless, right? It was something that's going to disappear. The waitress walked by and asked if I wanted it to go. And I had no idea what a to-go was. I guess, at the restaurants down there, they take your sweet tea, dump it in a giant cup, top it off, and give it to you to go, which was awesome because I had more sugar in my system than you could shake a stick at. I wanted to joke around and ask her if it came with a shot of insulin afterwards, but it was such good sweet tea. So on the third day, just to finish up my story here real quick, I made the mistake and asked the waitress, hey, how do you make this? Like the sweet tea I was talking about. And the gentleman sitting across the table that was helping me there at the school, he about spit his food out. And this waitress gave me the look like, oh, you just didn't ask that. And she looked me dead square in the eyes. And she says, with water, and walked away. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? And he goes, they don't share that stuff down here. I said, they take pride in their sweet tea. I was like, you're kidding me. He goes, no. He said, you probably offended her asking her how to make it. And so it was a good learning experience the whole way around. If you go to a good barbecue place, don't ask them how they make their sweet tea. I'll tell you that. But I still got a to-go cup, so I was still in good graces with a big tip and a big smile as best as I could. But anyway, going back to that tribal knowledge and just the fact that in our machining world we're losing it a little bit, CAD and CAM has made what we do now just, it's almost taking transportation from wagon wheel to, self-driving Tesla and doing that in 40 years. So I guess not to date myself too much, it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just really what it is. What's lost, though, is all the secrets to getting the machine to cut the way you want it, or to get the tools to work better or last longer, get a nicer finish. Some of the tricks of the trade, you would just be shocked at different things that you could do. If you knew a lot about machining, you look at the person telling you that and thinking, have they lost their mind? I've never heard of that. And then try it, and it works. So Joe was telling me about the one experience he had that he couldn't get this one material to cut and get a nice finish. It was struggling with it. It was a really hard material. And one of the older machinists there in his shop now, of course, Joe's in his late 50s, early 60s, and was watching him struggle all day long. And finally I come over and spoke with him, and he was like, just cut, a very long thread across almost a depth. And that'll create an interrupted cut, and you'll get the cut that you want, and the tools will last, and everything will be fine. And Joe said he did it, and it just worked like a charm. And he never would have thought in a million years to cut just a giant big thread across the material to sort of break the surface and make an interrupted cut. And it worked. So that knowledge is being lost to us almost every day now. I remember my daughter got married in December, and my uncle, who I have a lot of respect for, he lives out in Ohio. His name's Bill. He spent a lot of time with me when I was younger, trying to share with me, his knowledge as a machinist. And the wedding venue was literally across the street from our shop, our building, which is pretty cool. So I only had a couple minutes. I got to look for my wife. Of course, it was our daughter getting married at the reception, and they weren't there yet. My she knew I wanted to take them over and show them the shop, and they didn't have time to stay the day after because of some bad weather coming in. So I hurried up and snuck over and gave him the 20-minute nickel dime tour. And I remember, he's looking older, he's slower. We're all getting older. And but it was really awesome to share with him from my heart that from where I started at, and the fact that he had helped me through that journey to get to where I'm at, and these machines that we have sitting here, and just show that appreciation and say thank you. It meant a lot. And it meant a lot to show him that all the time that he spent with me, and I know, to some people it might have been trivial, but it meant a lot to me. It really meant a lot to me, that somebody, cared enough to stop everything in their life and just help you a little bit. And look at where it got us. Now we're sitting here with CNCs, and we're getting ready to turn into a full production facility, which is super exciting. And the fact that he had taken time to share. So I guess to go back to the story a little bit is take some time to share. Take somebody under your wing. If somebody's interested in something that you're doing, don't just blow them off. You might be that one person that impacts them for the rest of their lives and change their future forever. And it might be something that you just spent 2 hours with them, or a day or two, and just showing them woodworking or introducing them to something, and you ignite that. And that person is off to the races, and they will never forget what you've done for them. Onto the business side of things. So my background, as far as, my history, of course, when I was in my 20s, I learned a lot and actually trained a lot of salespeople. I mean, a lot. And so through my 20s, I really got my teeth cut. I was really good at sales, and I was really good. I enjoyed talking to people. I loved it. I mean, it was something new and exciting every day. And I learned so much and was actually so good at it that I actually started training. And I trained and got paid to train people for years in this particular industry that I was in. And it was awesome. And then, of course, back into law enforcement and moving ahead with all my, military and law enforcement goals. I had a little bit of time off with some damage I had to my one leg and had to get surgeries, and really didn't know what else to do. Of course, I couldn't go back into law enforcement for a little while. So I ended up, a friend of mine was like, hey, I got a job for you. You might actually enjoy it. And I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it for several years until I got my health back and got my knee fixed all up and was able to get healthy enough to get back into law enforcement. And I learned so much. I will never forget. Like I always say that it's sort of weird if you look back through your life after you hit 55 of all the things that were like these turns in a road that you would never think you had to take, right? I never assumed that I was not going to be a police officer, or for a while, I never assumed that I was going to suffer a major incident to where, I had to have major surgeries. But it forced me down another avenue and into things I never would have done before. And if it wasn't for all these great experiences and accumulation of experience, it was almost like you're being trained for the future you that's not there yet. Like it was being trained on how to talk to people, how to take care of people, how to care, how to reach out to them and listen to their wants and needs. And how do you train salespeople? How do you train the people that are interacting with people? And all these things that have given you these tools that without you knowing it, you were going to need in the future. Like these were experiences that I had to go through to get me to where I am the person I am today, with both my experiences, with both my abilities, and cumulatively, without any of this, I might not be anywhere where I'm at today. I might be a completely different person. I might be in a totally different industry. And, who knows? So I always say that there's an intervention in there, that there's a guiding hand that says, hey, listen, yeah, you're not doing that no more. It's time for things to change. It's time for you to grow. Oh, by the way, now you're going to do this for about a year or two. And it's sort of like that. It's sort of funny. The next generation might not know this, but the wax on, wax off by Mr. Miyagi, like you have no rhyme or reason. You don't understand why this is happening to you. Like, why do you have to do this now? It wasn't your plan. And then you learned that there was a reason why you were learning that wax on and wax off. And now you've got this tool that you've never had before. And here you go into the future you that's going to allow you to be the person you were meant to be, in the position you were meant to be in, and being able to do those things, not just well, but great. That leads down to the path of doing one thing and being the best in the world at it. So I have learned a lot over 55 years in different areas of my life. I am sure we all have. Like, we have all gone through all these experiences, these highs and lows, these big changes where doors open and doors close. There are good times. There are bad times. There are horrifyingly scary times. All of those things happen. But in those areas where people shine, or I believe where they become the best of themselves, is focusing on the one thing that you can be the best at. What's your calling? Like, for example, I had Joe here. He's an application engineer for Okuma, and we were working on a project. And my admiration for him is incredible. He is a great people person. He is a good salesperson, for sure. I mean, he wants to do his part to really promote Okuma and its abilities. But he is a teacher at heart, and he understands how to work with people and train and teach to get them where they need to be. He's an incredible teacher, and he has found his role as a teacher or an application engineer or as an instructor or as somebody that's in that role in the machine world. I believe personally he is in his calling. He is where he is going to make the biggest difference in the world, where he is happy. He loves doing what he does. I'm sure he gets crazy, because of the million phone calls with people, calling and asking 100 million questions, which is part of any business that you get into, people reaching out and asking you for help, or, hey, I need your advice on something. But you can see in him that he is where he is because, A, he is the best in the world at doing that one thing. He's really found his role as far as what he's really great at and where he wants to apply it to. I think a lot of times what we learn is there's a lot of people that get into different things, or, for example, machine shops. When we opened this place here, I made a commitment to myself that I was never going to be a job shop. And one of the reasons why we held off buying these machines was because I didn't want to have to farm out work to pay for the machines. I didn't want to have to do other people's jobs. And I know that sounds, from a machining standpoint, and for those that own machine shops, that sounds counterproductive. Like, most people own a machine shop because they go out and they get bids and they want to do work and they want to make parts. And, every day is a different experience. Every day is a different material. Every day is a different drawing. They love that stuff. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to get the machines when we were ready to make our parts, and I only wanted to make our parts. I only wanted to make what we were the best in the world at, that was our products, and not be distracted or pull away from our mission or our goals because we have to do it for $1. And I've learned that every time that in my 55 years of living, that every time that I veered from that, I've paid the consequences and paid it dearly. For example, all the different teaching out there. I shot a handgun. I qualified 1 million times for law enforcement and military and police and all this stuff. I can shoot a handgun. I have no interest in teaching it. It's not my expertise. I know it's not. I mean, I can shoot it well. I mean, I've never shot competitively, but I've always shot well. I mean, I love to shoot, so it's sort of natural. But it's not my calling. And yet we would get probably phone calls every week for people that would like us to start a handgun course and teach handguns. But as much as it's tempting to do work like that, and of course the income is nice, it's not our expertise here at our company, and it's not our long-term goal. And so to pull resources or time away to put into that would be counterproductive. The same thing with the advanced classes. Now, we're the best in the world as far as teaching, and it's fundamentals of marksmanship. It's the art of shooting. It's getting you to the point to where now you can apply that to almost any position, whether it's hunting, whether it's in match shooting, but it's the core of the fundamentals of marksmanship. That is what we are the best in the world at, and hence the 3-day long-range shooting school is all we really offer. Every once in a while we'll do a movers class, and that is just simply because it's a reward to me for working really hard, because I love shooting movers and I love sharing that with people. But it's not a full-time position. It's nothing I could do 4 or 5 classes a year, because it takes a little bit of time, and it's sort of a getaway for clients. They can meet us at a remote facility. They camp with us. I mean, it's as much as a get-together for, I guess, Wolf Precision alumni, give them a chance to experience something totally different, and it's a vacation for me. I get a couple days away with the guys. We get a chance to go eat good barbecue, tell some stories. It's camaraderie. It's sort of part of the business, but it's nothing that would be something that I would do 3 or 4 times a year. Same thing in machining. We could make anything with these machines. We could make scope rings and bases. There's all of these different things that we could just set here day in and day out and redraw things. But are we doing the best that we could do? Are we focused on what our goal is? Are we focused on what we're the best in the world at? Or are we just simply doing things, trying to throw a product into the marketplace that just has our name on it? I mean, everybody and their brother's got a set of rifle rings out there right now, and they're getting better all the time with, 5th axis CNCs, and eventually that will lead to a price war, where eventually it's the guy with a giant tombstone kicking out 600 of them an hour that will win that war. And it's not our calling. I never fell asleep at night dreaming about making the perfect set of rifle rings, right? And so in business, I think it's really important that you stay focused on what you are the very best in the world at. What is going to be your legacy as a business? And do that one thing and be the best. Not average, not above average, not almost the best or top 10 or top 2, but number 1. And what we feel here, and I'm just sharing with you our life goals, is we are the best in the world at making chambers. And we have found a way to make the perfect chamber. And the Gen 4 Ace, we're going to release some videos for it soon. It is coming up for sale, as well as the tools for the end user to install it. Our calling is that simple little joint that mates the barrel and the action together to make a better shooting rifle. That's what we do. That has been my life's work, was picking out the weakest link in the rifle, what could we do to make a better rifle? What is the weakest link to make a better rifle? Where is the break point that separates everybody else from what could be a fantastic shooting rifle? And it's the ace. It's having that perfectly true chamber, a perfectly straight throat in the very straightest portion of the barrel, and marrying the action on one end, the barrel on the other, and getting them to work in harmony together. So you don't have any part interrupting with the other. You don't have trying to drill the chamber in, getting a crooked throat deep into the border. You don't have the barrel messing with the potential accuracy of the chamber or the accuracy of the rifle because it does that. We now can separate the action in the barrel. We have this piece that sits between them that joins them together perfectly so that they can actually work as a team as they're designed to. We now make a chamber that is separate of the barrel that is capable for the customer to take on and off on their own. Think of buying a rifle chamber like buying a set of scope rings, right? And you can actually put it on the barrel. And what's amazing is not only are we really good at it, but the machines are very, very efficient. They're world-class accurate. I mean, it's just incredibly, stunning yesterday, the accuracy we were getting out of these machines, in production mode. But that's why we want these machines. But we're able to now get that to market and eventually expand what we can offer the Ace for. So we have had some other people contact us about making an Ace for their receiver. And it's something we weren't ready for yet because we have to be able to ramp to meet that need. We have to be able to ramp production without sacrificing zero quality. We have to be able to make the same part over and over again, whether it's 20 a day, 50 a day, 100 a day, or 300 a day. They have to be right. And the same thing with the barrels. The barrels, it's pretty interesting on, when you chamber a barrel or when, in our case, we're just throating it. The level of accuracy that it increases. So we had one of our shooters, he actually has a YouTube channel. His name's Derek Lissette. And if you do search on YouTube, I think he's called The Average Shot. We actually brought him on the podcast here and did an interview with him. And he's heading off to Mammoth Mountain. So Derek, if you're listening, kick butt, have fun. Man, I hope you do a great job and have an experience of a lifetime. So if you're listening to the podcast on your way out to the match, we're with you. But I'd ask him, hey, you have experience with prefits as far as he's been around them. And, he shoots our Ace system. And, we're talking about the different pricing and the experiences that he's had with the guys that shoot with him that actually just purchased prefits. And, he had said, the prefits are a mass production version of basically a gunsmith drilling a barrel, right? It's them pounding that out as a commodity. So that's mistake number one, because anytime you make something a commodity, you're willing to sacrifice things for efficiency. But he said the couple guys that he knows that shoots them, they're happy with them. And they'll shoot 3/4 of an inch all day long. I mean, they're sub-minute guns for sure and readily available. He got his new 6-dasher and is shooting 5-shot groups in the 1s and 2s. And that's not by accident. That accuracy is there because the Ace interrupts that disturbance of drilling that chamber into the barrel and the issues it causes with the alignment of the bullet to the throat. And, he had said that all things in, there's no comparison. Now, is that person with the prefit happy with their rifles? Sure. And can they buy them? Sure. There's a million people that make them. You're at the mercy of how much they're willing to sacrifice as far as how fast they're going, how much how accurate they'll try to dial in the throat. Do they dial the throat in at all? Do they use spiders? There's all that stuff. We've talked about that in the past, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's the difference. And I think Derek has now had 3 or 4 barrels from us, and they've all performed the same. It's a repeatable process that we can create just award-winning, incredibly accurate rifles over and over again, and it is our calling. It has been, my 35-year journey to this point is to leave the rifle in a better position than what I found it, and fixing what we found to be the weakest link that we could fix to get more accuracy out of what's available. We can actually take the rifle up a complete whole notch by doing this, and being able to offer that in lots of different calibers, being readily available, teaching customers to take the ace on and off themselves with a very simple hand tool. And there'll be videos coming out on this in the next couple of weeks. It's incredible. Like, we're bringing some clients in on Saturday to do some beta testing with them to let them practice with the Gen 4, all the tools involved, and see how the experience goes for them. And what's amazing is even the guys that are assembling stuff here, it's cut our assembly time down when we put a rifle together now by half, just with the new Gen 4 Ace and the tools. And the simplicity of it is just jaw-dropping. So I don't want to post up any videos or pictures yet. Those will be coming. We'll be posting those, probably putting them up on our website, on the ACE page, as well as we'll probably post up some videos, as long as YouTube doesn't tear it down. We'll probably post them up on Patreon for free. So you don't have to be a paid member to see the videos. You just have to be over 18, and maybe we'll get in a little more detail to it. But it's our calling. It was what we were meant to do. And it's the one thing that we're hyper-focused on, with nothing else taking preference. Even with the podcast here, I love doing the podcast and sharing the information. Last week, we were getting things ramped up, and I just couldn't take the couple hours needed to do the podcast that week. It would have been irresponsible of me to do it. Now we're back to a normal rhythm, and that is all, dialed in, settled in. Everything's working great. So now I can get back into what we consider, our work routine is you try to do a podcast every week, and we're going to try to post up some, gunsmithing videos, all that stuff. So that'll all be coming in the future. But if you're in business, and I think we all fall into this when we are, try to think of what you could be the best in the world at. And even if your gut says, well, I can make more money over here, part of that being the best in the world at isn't always about making the most money either. There are a lot of really wealthy people that are just miserable. So, of course, money doesn't buy happiness. It makes life easier. Of course, try living without it for a while, and you'll see the value of $1 really quick. But the other side of it is your happiness and doing what you do every day, you would almost do it for free. I remember back in the early 90s, of course, I played music and played guitar and sang and all that stuff in bands back in late 80s, early 90s, when that was a cool thing to do. And we had so much fun with it. We made so much money one year with the summer that I didn't actually cash my paycheck from work for a couple months. My boss was so mad at me because we got paid really good money back then too. And I remember the first time I did a giant show. It was really cool. There was a band from Florida that came up, and we were the opening act for them. They were sort of a big deal. And they handed me this handful of cash at the end of the show. And I remember thinking, I had so much fun, I would have did it for free. And I'm thinking, I'm getting paid to do this? Are you kidding me? So, of course, I was like, 19, 20, 21, 22. And I still worked full time. I wasn't drug addict, burned out, stoner, any of that stuff. I was a professional. But I loved music. I still love it today. I love, sharing that. I still write. I wrote my daughter a song for her wedding and played it at the wedding. It's something when I get closer to retirement, I'll probably do more of. My wife yells at me all the time for not doing it more. But it's sort of that experience. Like, I would have done it for free. And here's this person handing me money for something that I just had the time of my life doing. And same thing here. Like, I enjoy it so much that it's not always about the money. I would sit here and build rifles, and I would teach the class. I mean, I am happy. And I think Joe was a great example of that when he was here as an application engineer, is that it wasn't about, of course, we have to make a living, but it wasn't about that. You could see that he was in his happy place, that this is what he loves to do. And that means just as much, if not more, than sometimes the paycheck at the end, because there's a fulfillment that happens in us that cannot be fulfilled with money. So it's sort of like fame, right? You can always want to make more money doing all of these things, but you can't be too famous. Like, people that seek fame, there's never an end. It's like having a stomach that can never be filled, and it can be dangerous and of course have really, really bad things happen along the way in trying to reach those different levels. But where Joe was, he was absolutely in his happy place, because I think he's really into what we're doing as well, which makes a difference. But yeah, find your happy space, find what you could be the best in the world at. Don't pay so much attention to focusing on, well, I just got to get rich doing this, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. You have to make money, and you have to make a good profit. there's always charity. You can always be charitable, and you can give your time and resources and money as the calling is there, right? But that said, you have to make a good profit or a fair profit when you're running a business. There's nothing wrong with making a good profit and having a profitable business as long as you're doing it with the mindset that you're there to help the customer and you're there to really give them the best experience of their lives. So anyway, well, we hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you would like, don't be afraid to stop over to Krieger Barrels. They do make a world-class barrel. They are one of the best in the world at, I would say, cut rifled barrels here in the United States, family-owned and operated business. They have their website called Krieger Direct. We can log in and get your barrel in as little as 2 to 3 business days. Also, if you would like to leave a nice comment down below or to share this podcast, we really appreciate that as well. So thank you, everybody, so much for taking the time to join us. We really appreciate it. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you are listening to Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.